Welcome back to Ask the Attorney with Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm in Clarksville. And we were just talking about this on the break, but just to be clear, Kevin, you practice all over Middle Tennessee, is that right?
Yes, all over Middle Tennessee. And so, we get calls from Paris, Tennessee, Waverly, Dixon, Ashland City, Cheatham, Davidson County, Murfreesboro. So, we go Franklin, you name it.
All right. Well, we've got a couple calls here, but keep calling that number, 737-plus-737-7587. And we've got Beulah here. Hi, Beulah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Go ahead, Beulah. What's your question?
I have a will that was made up by an attorney, and I want to make some changes on it. Would I be able to just cross out what I want to cross out and maybe add it? I don't know.
Now, that's a good question, and I'm glad you called with it because there's a lot of people that are sitting out here listening, and they probably have the same similar question. And your question was, I've got a will, I'd like to make some changes. Can I cross out and just write in there? No, you can't, because really what happened, that will was executed. You write a will, and again, we always tell everyone, get a lawyer. Let a lawyer help you execute it so there's no problem. But when they actually execute a will, you need 2 witnesses, and there needs to be a little formula that kind of goes, a ceremony almost, to say, yes, do you know who you are? Do you know who your children, your issue? Do you know the extent of your property? You've read your will, and is this exactly how you want to go? And likewise, the executor or the administrator or whatever you want to try to list executrix, they are listed in there for a specific reason. So when we finish it and you sign and initial each page and it's notarized and the witnesses are there, that document is what you'd almost call signed, sealed, and delivered. So you take that document, and people change all the time. Sometimes people add a codicil to their will, but so many people just go in and write another will. And because there's changes, you have a child that passes away or a spouse passed away, then yes. Or you have a spouse that you thought was going to be with you forever and they didn't. Or you have a child that really disassociated themselves from you and you said, wow, I want to change this. Well, then come in, because one of the first things it says in the will, I revoke all prior wills and codicils, and then that last one would be the one that controls.
Yeah, and if you've had an attorney do it before, like it sounds like Beulah did, that attorney would probably be able to do it quickly and hopefully not very expensively either.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got Gary here. Hi, Gary.
Yes.
Yeah, Gary.
How can we help you today?
I have a question about water runoff. I own a piece of property that is uphill from another piece of property. Are you any way liable for the regular rainwater and things that run off your property down on another piece of property?
Okay. We've seen those lawsuits over the years. Now, what I would maintain, if it's a natural flow and no one has disturbed it, water running off is an act of God. Now, on the converse, if you own that and you dam something or you cut trees or you dug into the side of a hill that has created a non-natural flow of water, then yes, you may have taken on some liability that would damage your neighbors. And of course, we had lawsuits like this when the Hemlock, because when Hemlock came in, Hemlock built way up high and it created all kinds of problems for water runoff on the neighbors. So, your home's sitting here, we never had a problem, and then some industry comes inside there and they say, okay, we're going to build 20 foot up, 20 feet high, and when the water comes, it pours all into your yard. Well, they have created a problem. Their negligence, their intentional, whatever, that damaged your property. So I think, yes, you could bring a lawsuit against those.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, we've got Wes here. Hi, Wes.
Yes.
How can we help you?
Yes. My question was HMOA versus just a regular codes for building contractors. Does the city code hold over precedence on the HMOA?
Okay, well, what you're really getting into, you get into several different codes. Well, number one, is it a residential building permit or is it a commercial building permit? If it's residential, you know, these different counties, we see these all kinds of disputes all the time because someone says, well, it's not required by state code that I have to have a sprinkler system. However, this county is requiring this. And then this county requires sidewalks when you build a subdivision, and other counties don't. I think you're going to have to be regulated by the city where you're at, and then the state code. As a general rule, state will take precedence over city. As a general rule, the federal government will take precedence over a state law. And so again, what I always like to say is have a good understanding, you know, because contractors, they build houses in Montgomery County and they say, hey, I got a great deal in Cheatham County. They didn't check out the codes, and what they thought they could build for $150,000 will not work in another county.
And you'd be surprised how codes can vary county to county.
Absolutely. So before we took on a project like that, you'd say, well, I never dreamed it. You know, Amy and I were talking during the break. There's 10 million laws out there, even for the skilled lawyer. And so, and many times when you find out is when another lawyer has advanced that on you.
Right. Well, that is good advice, and keep calling that number at the bottom of your screen, 737 plus 737 7587. And again, it's an unusual night for Ask the Attorney. Usually we're on the third Thursday of the month, but really this show is sort of an opportunity, and for us it's a public service opportunity.
Absolutely.
To provide legal advice to people, whether it's, you know, criminal, civil, family law. We really get a variety of questions.
You know, one other point that I would bring for this gentleman, if you're considering building one, call the building and codes and listen to them. And then, of course, you know, the guy that's on the other end, he could make a mistake. He can interpret it differently, but you like to hear what they say and talk. And usually if you can get to the head of building codes, he knows that job pretty good.
Yeah. Right. Well, now, Kevin, you've got a couple different offices, and one is near Fort Campbell, is that right?
Right.
So what
it's
kind
right
of law?
outside the Army base, and so, you know, we're going to deal with a lot of military law, both criminal and civil, and so there's probably 31,000 troops just outside Fort Campbell, and for all those that serve in the military, we do love you. And Amy and I get to have this show. You get to hear the broadcast because people are really standing up, putting their lives on the line, and I want to say thank you today. This is a great opportunity to do that. Also, all the military wives, you know, it's enormous sacrifice on them, and so the military puts a strain on separation. You know, we've said before, I actually did the Oprah Winfrey show when the first Persian Gulf War broke out. I did more divorces during that war than any lawyer in the nation. People said, well, how does a guy from Clarksville, Tennessee get that kind of notoriety? How did you get so popular? How did you do it? And I remember CNN flew in and they wanted to interview me. The New York Times came in and wanted to interview me, and the Washington Post. So it was a unique time. I was at the right place at the right time to do that.
And was that the reason, or did you handle one and then they just kept coming from there?
I was really popular lawyer at that time, so everybody said, go to Kevin Kennedy, go to Kevin Kennedy. So I was just inundated. And I remember one day, I got there early, like 7 o'clock. There were 17 people waiting to come in.
Gosh.
To see me, and so we put them in every office, and then I went in and talked to each one individually. And you know, I went through a time, and we actually really tried to save marriages. And I remember Oprah even said once, she said, the bar trying to save marriage? I said, yes, we can't save them all. But at that time, I really, if I could save your marriage, you know, there's 16 more other guys over here you can represent. So if you saved one, great. And that would be wonderful for you, your children. In fact, I used to teach at a school, and they said, Mr. Kenny, somebody's here, and this great big guy comes through there, and he's like 6'8", 300 pounds. He's walking fast, sunglasses. He pulls his sun. I said, oh, brother. He said, are you Kevin Kennedy? I started to say, no, I'll go get him, because I didn't know he's walking so. And he said, I want to shake your hand. And I said, well, I want to shake your hand. He said, you saved my marriage. And it's a profound story to go back years later and say, hey, if we saved one, it's great.
Right. We've got another caller here, and keep calling that number, 737 plus 737 7587. We've got Salam here. Hi, Salam.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Yes,
Hi.
what can I do for you?
I have a question if you can help me.
Okay.
And I have been divorced last December, and I have a daughter with my ex, and a man who introduced himself in my couple life to destroy it, and he started beating my daughter. And me as a person, I do not accept any kind of physical punishment as a means of education. So I talked with her mom, who is my doctor, and I told her that I do not accept anybody to touch my daughter. And her mom did not give me time. She was in a hurry and she was shaking, and she said to me that her boyfriend just gave a couple light touch to my daughter. I told her, anyway, somebody who destroyed another man's family cannot be a moral reference for my child. He cannot give anything. He cannot bring any good things in my child's education, and I'm here as a dad. And I would like to have some advice.
Okay.
I'm not from this country, and I am not looking for a trouble. I just would like to see what the law offers me and how I can use it.
Okay, I'll be glad to address that. First off, if there is any physical abuse on a child and anyone is aware of it, you're under an obligation to report it. Public policy wants to protect children because children can't protect themselves. And if you were to pick that child up and you saw stripes on that child or they were whip marks on that child, I would call Department of Human Services. I'd take that child to the doctor immediately. The doctors and the hospitals will report it to DCS and they will intervene. And if it's where they believe that something should be done, they have wide powers. They can say, this child is not going back over there. We're going to do an investigation. They find if you are the father, it's very likely they'll just turn the child over with you, and you hold that child until this investigation goes, because they have the authority to say that. Likewise, and immediately, I would hire a lawyer. If there were those kinds of marks and the child were able to relay that, there can be criminal charges. That's a crime against the state of Tennessee. And that child would go to a police, the detective, they'd put them through a forensic, and they would prosecute from there. And again, if the woman, your ex-wife, if she knew about it, refused to report it, then they can charge her with failure to protect.
And if for some reason you can't afford a lawyer, there's a lot of good options with either someone taking your case pro bono, or the Legal Aid Society is a great option for that as well.
DCS, Department of Children's Services, they're there to help the state, so they don't charge you anything. And of course, the district attorney's office, they don't charge you. That's a crime against the state, and your child would be the victim.
And is there anything that he can do in terms of his divorce decree?
Yeah, you can always hire a lawyer and file for, because even if DCS says, we don't think this level of abuse reaches us to intervene and file a petition and take the child, you can immediately hire your own lawyer, and you have a right to petition the court, ask for a restraining order, and say, we've got physical abuse here, and here's our documentation, and try to get the judge to sign it pending, and he'll give you a temporary restraint pending a hearing. And then you bring in your witnesses. If you have some experts, bring your experts, bring a deposition, bring photographs, video, whatever. If the child's old enough to relate, you actually can put the child on the stand and let the child tell the judge. If you don't want to do that, you have a right to ask to go back in chambers, and there's a lot of discretion when it comes to children.
And what if it's just a difference in parenting opinions, I guess, where he says he doesn't believe, in ever physically touching the child, and let's say she believes in spanking?
Well, and again, then how is the court going to interpret that? If we say it reaches unreasonable, then what is reasonable, what is unreasonable? And we know abuse when we see it. Everyone has a right to correct, but once there's a DCS investigation, they're going to come in and say, you can't do this, don't do this, and here we go. And then again, of course, children, many times they get 11 or 12 years old, they want to leave their parents' home and go to the other parent because they've had issues and they want to do what they want to do. And then, as they approach the teenage years, we see it all the time.
All right, well, we've got plenty more questions and plenty more answers for you, so give us a call at that number, 737-PLUS, 737-7587, and we'll be back with Kevin Kennedy after a short break.